Hello, good evening. We are back with the SAP IP Business Talks. A warm welcome here from Munich. This evening, we are back in Europe. I'm very happy that we can discuss today a quite interesting topic, because we know that around 80% of all workforce comes from SME, that Europe is the economic foundation of Europe comes from small and medium enterprises. And today we focus on that topic. I'm very happy that we have our guest here, Bastian Joly. In addition, we have two accredited guests who will discuss with us also in the chat. But you, as participants of this format, are also invited to discuss with us via the chat. Give us your questions, give us your comments, and I will pick up that and we'll talk about that with Bastian. We have Felipe Aguilera Borison, who is from the Innovation Organization Association in Norway. And by the way, somebody who made our university diploma in IP management at Strasbourg. Very happy that he's today with us. And of course, Joe Doyle, IP manager from Enterprise Ireland, who is also supporting the HTBC initiative from the EPO, where we work heavily together. So coming back to our today guest, Bastian, thank you very much for joining us today with that topic. Of course, we have a reason why we're talking today, because you launched this wonderful tool, which I promoted already via LinkedIn. But first of all, before we talk about all these stuff, I would like to give you the floor to tell us a little bit what was the background, why you are in that, let's say, strange field of IP management. Tell us a little bit about you, Bastian.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much, Alex, for inviting me to this talk. I'm very much appreciated. I'm really looking forward to the next few minutes with all of you here in the interview. So I mean, what's really the reason that I choose IP? I mean, I always have to admit that I didn't choose IP. I mean, I was in law school in Germany, and one of the professors that I liked very much, he taught us civil law and private law, and he said, next year I give a class about IP. And that's how really I started to become an IP lawyer and an IP expert. I have to say, I really didn't choose it, but I choose to stay with IP. And why was that the case? I think really because it helps innovation so much. I mean, it's really something how you can help startups and SMEs and really to protect their business. And that's so important. For me, it's really a bit like being a heart surgeon. You're really in the core and in the heart of the company, and you learn so much about it. And yeah, you could be a developer, a scientist, but then you can only work on one issue. While us IP guys, I mean, today we can speak about chemistry, and next day we are in electrical engineering or biotech. I mean, I think that really makes it great switching from one thing to the other. And I guess this is also what I did in my career. I studied in Germany, then I went for 1 year to Boston University, became also a lawyer in New York, and then really did the usual career that German lawyers do when they did and studied in the US and had good grades. And in a way, I got my doctoral degree. I worked for a big law firm called McDermott, Will & Emery, where I did IP litigation and IP licensing. And then I decided that I wanted to go in-house because I felt money is not everything. I said it's really help companies improve what they're doing and really focus on a common goal. So joined a company that was back then a spin-off from Infineon, and is now part of Intel. And I stayed there for 2 years, working on IP licensing, but also IP litigation again. And then I had the great opportunity to join Osram, right when they were thinking about doing the IPO. And I joined there really to work on the big licensing agreements. I did the license agreement with Samsung and LG there. So this was really super exciting times at Osram there. And then they kind of put me in the talent.
Was that the time where these LED world was, let's say, settled all the disputes and decided to cooperate, because we have an industry case about Signify in the IP Business Academy. So strong recommendation for everybody to watch that industry case, because that is a fascinating situation that over many years this industry was fighting against each other, and then there was this big settlement to say, okay, now we don't want to fight each other, we want to make business with LEDs. Was that time?
Yeah, I mean, I like to say that I would never had the opportunity to join Osram without LED. Because let's say, think back, I mean, if the blue LED and then the white LED wouldn't have been invented, then Osram would still make light bulbs. And there's, I mean, it was technology, but I mean, everybody knows who invented the light bulb and when. But because everything changed with the invention of the light bulb in the last century, end of the last century, so it's not that long ago, it's 20 years ago. But that's really when the technology changed for everyone. I mean, the entire lighting industry had to change. Yeah, so Philips had to change, Osram had to change, and there were new players. But really, Osram was at the forefront there. And that's the reason I joined, really, because they needed IP guys, and they needed to have IP guys for those big disputes that you're saying. I have to say, I mean, Osram was a pioneer there. And I mean, we did really a lot of successful licensing agreements for Osram in that field.
And how you proceed from there?
Yeah, I mean, because of all that success, I was kind of selected for the talent program at Osram. And that's where I learned a lot about innovation, entrepreneurship, but also intrapreneurship. And so the idea was to create founders within the company. I mean, that's really what I then decided to do. I mean, I said, let's create our own company, do even more than entrepreneurship, become an entrepreneur, become a startup founder. And I mean, this is really what
Bastian, by the way, we have common grounds on Osram. It's interesting that we never met there, because I worked a lot with the former CTO, Mr. Kampmann, from Osram on the strategic aspects of IP, and it's fascinating that maybe at the same time that we worked there and had never the chance to meet, but to a certain extent, you made licensing and maybe litigation, and that's that was not my world. So insofar, it's fascinating.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, and then you made your own thing. You started to run a company. What is that?
Yeah, so really, I woke up one morning and said, I mean, really, everybody has this trouble that they don't understand IP. So how can we really make IP understandable? I mean, really allow people to dive into that one. And the first idea that we really kind of tried out was to create kind of a trip advisor for IP, so that people could speak about other people's IP and kind of comment on it. But that's really where we had to find out that people, number one, didn't comment really openly about other people's patents. But we also found out that people didn't like that other people did comment about their patents. And that's really then where we said, how can we really democratize this? I mean, how can we make IP understandable? And that's the reason why we're talking today, that this is really our mission, to help SMEs, but also the regular business person, to make more out of IP, without investing a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, so lower the access, so to speak, the access hurdle. That's I mean, it's also a mission which we have at the HTBC, the High Growth Technology Business Initiative from the EPO, where we really try to go into that direction. So let's stay a little bit with the SME. So of course, they need a strategy. They need an IP strategy. I mean, that's obvious. And the interesting thing is, even when they say we don't care about IP, that is an IP strategy, and maybe not the smartest one, but it is one. And so it is absolutely important that they have access to, let's say, sources which are not overburdened with all of that legal knowledge. Okay, so legalese in terms of this really Chinese of terminology and background which you typically need to use that. What would you say? where can we find that, and how can we develop that? Because every expert is so proud of the expert knowledge which she or he has, and will always explain you that once you make it easy, that means that it is not correct anymore. And so isn't that a conflict? And what do you think? What is the need of an SME here?
Yeah, I mean, you can always turn to experts. I mean, that's what we all kind of know. But experts, I mean, it's time and effort and it's cost. I mean, I like to kind of compare IP in that sense to maybe accounting, to taxation, to finance in a company. And you can't run a company without knowing anything about finance. You have to have a basic understanding of accounting, of controlling. You don't, and the taxation, yeah. You don't need to know everything, but if you have no clue, I mean, yeah, you can always go to your tax advisor or to your accountants, but you will run into trouble. And we have those experts, tax advisors, accountants, controllers, but still you need a basic understanding. And that's the same, I think, what needs to apply for IP. Yeah, you can always go to a patent attorney or a trademark attorney or a lawyer, but I mean, how should you know that you need to turn to this person? How do you spot the issue?
It's the unknown.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially when it comes to the digital transformation, what I discuss really with companies is that they think, yeah, as we said with Bastian Best, we said the companies don't know that software is obviously patentable, and that we have hundreds and thousands of software patents out there, and then the digital experts think that others cannot have patents because they think it is not patentable, and that's crazy. So it's not just not knowing something; it's even a completely misunderstanding of the situation. And so, as you said, the unknown means that I even don't know that there is something which I should take care about. I mean, to a certain extent, that has something to do with education, right? So in the classical MBA programs, in the management education, we have a huge lack. So yes, you get a basic understanding of accounting, you get a basic understanding of taxation, but nobody ever introduced to you at least the big points on IP. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we hear from. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I mean, so we hear from founders from time to time, yeah, in startups that they heard for the first time, maybe in their studies about IP. Yeah, so that maybe there was one class, somebody told them, if you have ever a great idea, patent it. But that's like all the exposure they have. And yeah, you could now think about, let's give them all a training. But those people don't have that time. Yeah? And so we really have to boil it down for them. And the same like for financial analysts in a bank or in a private equity company. I mean, they don't want the training in IP now. They really want to dive into it right away. I mean, this is how they learn. And they're not really taking classes. They want to really understand what's going on and have a basic grasp. The same they have about taxation. Yeah, what I like to say, I mean, you can't really do licensing agreements if you don't know about withholding tax. Yeah, I don't need to be an expert in withholding tax, but when I look at a license agreement, I need to tell people you might have to think about withholding tax and then go to the tax advisor. But I think those little nuggets, that's what they need to know. Otherwise, I mean, how should they be able to align their IP strategy with their business strategy?
Yeah. Some pillars, some let's say question marks should arise when certain things happen. Say, okay, maybe this is something I should discuss. But in addition, it is simply what I see again and again is that CTOs, that C-level simply don't want to talk with IP guys, because the other way around, IP guys have a strong tendency to use their expertise to come and to explain the patent system or the trademark system, and not coming up with really the facts which are now relevant for a business decision. Mm-hmm. And I mean, what would you say? Which kind of digital platforms are available right now for SMEs to help them to build a certain IP strategy and understanding, and then an IP strategy to make smart decisions, good decisions for the company?
Yeah, I mean, this is also something where the audience can weigh in. But what we kind of saw in our research that we did of the free platforms out there, or platforms out there in general, is that there's a lot of search tools. So there's a lot of stuff where you can search for prior art, and also where you can search when you're looking into freedom to operate. I mean, this is really, again, very, let's say, specific legal terms now, or legally. So let me kind of translate that for the SME audience. So there is tools where you can check whether there was somebody before you, whether somebody had this idea before you. But that sounds really easy, what I'm saying now. Those tools are not really easy. We have to admit that. So I think there needs to be something done. And we can touch on that, I think, in our discussion. But really, when you look at the tools that are available, really what I like is for designs. I mean, the European IPO, really in Alicante, they really published something, or they launched a tool where you can just upload maybe a photo of your product, a photo of your design, and then you see similar designs. I tried it out. It works quite well. I mean, you still have to look at a lot of designs, but at least, I mean, this is how a business person works. Yeah, I mean, just upload my thing and see what happens. Yeah, and you can combine it by uploading the picture with maybe the company name, and then it gets easy. So that's a search tool. The other search tools, when you look for patents, so ideas that were there before you, I think those are quite difficult to use. Yeah, we have to be really honest there. I mean, this is something where an SME can start and get a first grasp on the world. But I think there needs to be more work done. And we can speak about that today, Alex, if you want, and if the audience wants. And then what we see is what we call business intelligence tools. And that might be more important for creating your IP strategy, because those business intelligence tools, I mean, I like to say that what we launched, Good IP IQ, is one of those tools. You just put in a company name, and you get a feeling like, what have they done the last 20 years? I mean, you can even, when you look maybe at Siemens, you can look at what did they do the last 100 years. Yeah, what were the technologies that they were active in? What countries are they trying to get protection in? What do they care about? Are they filing more or less than the last years? And that really can inform your strategy, that you can then say, I mean, what should I do? I mean, compared to my competitors, do I have to align my strategy? I know this is on a very high level, but this is really where you are at on the C level or as a founder when you start with your IP strategy.
Yeah, what I really like, and what Joe Doyle right now comment in the chat is, he says that for many SMEs, IP is seen as a part of the problem. Okay, so they start to take IP into account when a problem comes up. Yeah. And so it is associated, like learning. Yeah, it is associated with IP is a problem. And what I like at Good IP IQ is that it is so simple. It's like Google. Yeah, you just write something in and you get something. And this, what you get, is on a very high level. It is meaningful. It is in a way presented that somebody who has not really a clue about IP or here patents, very concrete, that you get a first glance, and even when it is from an expert perspective not correct, yeah, it is a very good overview what's going on. And I'm on my own, I checked, I don't know how many companies in between, just when I see somebody on LinkedIn, okay, and I say, okay, should I approach them and should I explain them that we work on a learning management system, and that I would like to show that to them, and I just want to know what are they doing in terms of patents. And it is so easy, just write the name in it and you get something, and you see, for example, the information of the top inventors. Yeah. So that are people, and then again you go back to LinkedIn and check these people. That's very fascinating. And it is completely simple. It is available, and I mean that's the most important thing, that you lower the barrier just using it. And I mean that's the most important thing, that people get in touch with patents, and that patent information have a huge power. I'm very sure that many people are using your tool. I don't know whether you can check it, who is using your tool, but most of them, I guess, are the first one that they are in touch with patent information.
Yeah, I think that that's what we really hope and aspire, because we really want to democratize this and really be the place where startups can go to really to inform themselves and then create an IP strategy flowing from that, so that they really get a start into that field. Yeah, and I really like that it's very simple, as you're saying. I mean, it's you just put in a company name. I mean, I like to compare it a bit to Wikipedia, that you can really just put in a company name and then you get the information. I mean, what did this company do the last 100 years? I mean, what are the most similar companies from a patent perspective?
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean, we heard, we had one patent attorney looking at it. I mean, he put in his client, and I mean, he there was a Chinese name, and he said, I don't really know this company. And so then he Googled that Chinese company, and basically, I mean, it was almost the same product what his client made. And he said, I
yeah,
need to call the client right away whether he knows about this company in China. But they already had filed patents and everything. So this is really interesting. And yeah, I mean, for me, it's similar as for you. I mean, whenever you speak with a company, you can do a quick check, really. In which countries
exactly.
are they active? Are they really into the patent world, or is there a lack? I mean, this is really super. But the same is really for an SME. I mean, you can put in your 5 competitors and see what they're doing, and then really think, what should I do? I mean, at least it kind of creates a sense of urgency today, that you're saying, I need to do something because others are doing something.
What I did is exactly what Joe is right. Joe Doyle is writing right now. What I'm doing is sometimes I'm sharing my screen. Okay, when I'm talking with a CTO or C-level, I'm sharing my screen and say, "Do you know that I know what you're doing?" And they say, "What?" I say, "Yeah, patents are transparent and public information, and these guys are totally shocked when I show them the good IP IQ description, because they are. I mean, for them, it is really a new universe in terms of this is available for free in seconds at the internet about us, and we are not controlling that. Yeah, so typically they have the feeling that they control everything of their signature, yeah, which they create outside. And here that you can, again, these the competitors, exactly, and the names of the best. I told them, I said, is it clear for you that everybody can do that, and that this is absolutely transparent? Who are your top inventors? And by the way, when I compare, yeah, the number of your the number of your R&D guys with the number of your inventors, it's interesting, yeah, that most of them do never invent anything, and some of them do most of the job, yeah,
Yeah.
and more of that, yeah. And when I look at the technologies and I compare that with what I'm reading at the LinkedIn page, or what I see at the homepage, I say, look, that are your fields in which you are very active with patents. That is not really comparable with what you're telling where you are good on your homepage, and all of that. It is fascinating, yeah, because it is so simple. It's really it's a game changer, how you can use patent information, and you can communicate that in a one pager in seconds to the senior managers in a company about their own company. And they are, yeah, as I said, shocked that this is available, and they never saw that before. When it is dig down in these complex databases, nobody realizes how transparent they are.
Yeah, I mean, 2 things there. I mean, first time I showed good IP IQ to my father, who is a business person, his first question and really was, I mean, is this legal? Are you allowed to publish this? And I said, this data is public. It's just like we are putting it together in a way that people can look at it. Yeah? But this is like the reaction from a business person. Yeah, is this legal? I mean, is this public data? And yes, it
Yeah.
is. It's just you can't access it at the moment. Yeah, and then what I really like is even going further than what you're saying, Alex, that people just look at it. I mean, what I really like is when a founder or an executive, yeah, or the CEO of an SME just really puts in names of different companies, because
Yeah.
then they start playing with and they start entering the IP game. And that's so interesting that you can really, I mean, there's no hurdle. You just put in the name, and then you look at, let's say, this really nice UX, a really nice user interface. user experience and really nice pictures and really nice graphics. And we basically said, I mean, if you want to take a screenshot and put it into your presentation, please do. I mean, we're saying you can use it, what's there. Yeah? I mean, those graphics we kind of produced for you, and you can put them into your slide sets if you need them.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly that reaction. Is that legal? Is that you can do that for free? It's unbelievable. And I mean, that is exactly the reaction that people who have never seen that, because it was so complex to get it, and they were not able to play with it. I mean, that is the cool thing. It's like having a robot at home or something like that. So the change is. So it's like the smartphone. You start staring at it and say, "What should I do with it? I don't know." And or when the internet became mobile. No, I don't want to overemphasize that, but it is really a game changer in the question what can be done with it. And as you say, the possibility just to play around, to click on the next competitor and to look at it, or when you talk with somebody and in parallel you just check the patent situation of the company. I mean, that's something completely new, and I'm absolutely sure that this way, of treating patent information, to make that in a very simple way available, to democratize, to make it available for everybody. That is, and of course you can use it many times. It's just a standard information, like Wikipedia, like LinkedIn. By the way, we should there should be a button that you can put your company profile from Good IP IQ. You can integrate it in your LinkedIn profile, right?
Yeah, and I mean, could even be at some point that you can claim your page, and say I want to add stuff there, if that makes sense, But I mean, just really incorporating a LinkedIn, a really great idea. I mean, what I have to really say here is, I mean, it was not my idea. I mean, it's really my two co-founders, one of which is a business engineer, and he said, I mean, this patent world is too difficult to understand. And the other co-founder, and they had this idea together, is an AI guy, is an AI programmer. And he also felt this is way too complicated. And they said, let's put this together. And I have to admit, I mean, initially, I didn't really think this makes sense, because I'm an expert, But they told me this is what business people need, and that's what works. So I really have to be humble here. And I really like your kind of comparison to Apple. We have to be a bit careful there. I mean, I think Steve Jobs was really about making it easy for people to communicate with computers. And I think that's what he really achieved. I mean, you have babies now using an iPhone, and really, really senior people using an iPhone.
I mean, think about let's say Google Maps. Okay, yeah. I know it's a big discussion on Netflix and the $1 billion code, but anyway, Google Maps changed the way how people navigate themselves through the world. Bam. Okay, and you cannot, and the only question I learned that from a good business partner, Andreas Diefenbach. He's a designer, a product designer from Phoenix Design, and we work also in projects with them together, and he's a very inspiring guy. And I learned from him that you should not only ask what you can do with the gadget, okay, with the edge device, ask what the edge device is doing with you. And this is exactly here the point. When we compare it with Wikipedia, okay, I mean, Wikipedia changed the way how we think about dictionaries and encyclopedias. But I like the comparison with Google Maps, because Maps changed the way how people organize themselves in a geographic area, and I'm absolutely sure that a tool like Good IP IQ changes the way how people use patent information, simply because it is so simple. Yeah, and that is, and when you achieve that, I mean, the reaction from me when Thomas Berreuter from the European Patent Office called me and said, Alex, please, you support the HTPC, please support, and Bastian, Julie, and his company is also supporting us, and please, he's doing there something with a new tool, please, yeah, make a little buzz out of it. And I said, hey, come on, I mean, it's a tool. Yeah, I don't make advertisement for tools. But really, after I saw it and after I worked with it a little bit, I'm absolutely convinced that it is a kind of Google Maps for the world of patent information.
That's really nice of you to say. Huh? I mean, let's really hope that we can achieve even more there and make it even more accessible. But totally agree with you. I mean, less is more very often in product design. And that's really what really inspired here that we said, I mean, how can we really reduce this to the bare minimums? How can we flesh out really the core issues, what really the business people should think about?
And I like what Stefan Ertinger says in the chat. He said, "Oh, be careful! Yeah, patents are only published 18 months after the application." And I mean, if you want, you could write a 100-pager as a disclaimer for this tool. Yeah, at least 100 pages, all the information and what is a patent family and what it is not, and which information is included, and why we don't see this or that applicant even when it is legally a part of the company, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, of course, you can do that. But a little bit like maps, yeah, at the end, it gives me a very good orientation on what's going on. And I think you should not claim that you can avoid, so to speak, for a detailed information, you need experts. Absolutely. But exactly what you're saying, to know that there goes something on, and to lower the barrier of, come on, just do it. Yeah, this is what this tool is doing, and it is absolutely fascinating in its simplicity and not in the expertise. So, by the way, what is the engine behind that? Is that an artificial intelligence, or how you are realizing that?
So it's really public data, and so we are part of the Google Startup Program, and also part of AWS at Amazon and NVIDIA. So they really help us there a lot. And I mean, we are basing it on really publicly available data. And so basically, I mean, it's a lot of data crunching. The really most interesting part, what I like really from a data crunching point of view, is what our AI developer did, comparing each company with any other company. So what we did, Alex, we took any company that had more than 20 patents. So if you have less than 20 patents, you're not yet in the tool. So we might change that, but it was a conscious decision to say, let's take companies that have more than 20 patents. So those are in total 400,000. So all those 400,000 are in there. So think about it, it's really a big number. Yeah? 400,000 companies that have more than 200.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so it's a lot. Yeah? I mean, as you said, some of them might be duplicatives. Yeah, that's kind of different company spellings. Yeah, but nevertheless, it's 400,000. So we took that, and then our AI programmer compared each of those 400,000 with any other of the 400,000. So I'm a lawyer, I can do the math, but maybe we have lots of engineers and scientists on the call. Maybe somebody can do the math for us, how many terabytes of data you really create when you compare any company with any other company. And so that's what we did. You can put in Apple and see which companies are most comparable from a patent perspective. I mean, that's what really nobody did so far. What you can do in other tools is then you can put in Apple and you see what kind of technologies is Apple active. And then you can look who else is active in those technologies. But really, to tell you who's the most similar company, that's like the first time that we do that. I mean, that's really what business people are interested in. Yeah, they want to know who's most similar.
And by the way, this is exactly. It's obvious that you have also a finance background, because this is exactly how finance people thinking. In my lecture, I have a lecture where I try to explain in the master program. I try to explain how financial people or the financial market is looking at companies, and they say, okay, it's a black box, and I've just a rating, or I have a little report about the company, but that's it. And all what I'm interested in is comparing them. So the company itself is one thing, but I want to compare, and at the end I deduce the performance out of that, and I don't care for the details. And because I have so many companies, I have so many investment options, at the end, the details are not relevant. And this is, at least not for the financial market. And this is exactly the approach which you did here. And that's another thing what I like, is that you come with a completely different perspective. It is obviously not the perspective of somebody who wants to understand the last nitty-gritty detail of a portfolio, because then you cannot compare 400,000 companies. But exactly that, there lies a certain value in it, being able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really made for business people that have no understanding yet how this is really accessible. I mean, it might be important for them to know really what are the details in a portfolio, but that's not where they are. I mean, they don't know anything at the moment about that, and this is a way how they can get started. And so why should we overload them with all the expertise that we have? Because then again, they can't enter it.
As you said, they can always go to an expert. Okay, this is something different. It's a starting point. It's not the end point.
Yeah.
They can always call an expert, and they should do so when they have additional questions. So there are lots of questions now.
Okay.
We are not alone.
That's cool.
Lots of questions. So I would sort that now. One discussion line in the chat is that the question is, how do you want to proceed with the tool? So what will be next? So do you plan to expand it, for example, to trademarks, to designs? Because good IP means IP and not patent. So that's one line of questions, and the other questions are details on the tools. So, for example, whether you use non-patent literature, but I guess that's not relevant here. But how do you want to proceed? What are your plans with the tool?
Yeah, so we're very much a startup, and that really means that we do what we call design thinking. And so for the people in the audience for whom that is new, I mean, this is really what most startups do. I mean, this is really, you observe and you listen to what really users are doing. I mean, actually, that's what the plan is, Alex, to really find out what is useful for users and really see whether it solves their biggest challenges and problems for business people. And so I have to say, there is not a big master plan that we say this will be the next release and this will be the next release, because it kind of depends on the users, where they think is the most value. Yeah, so I don't know where the value is really for the business person. Yeah, that's really what we have to observe by them using it. Yeah, I mean, we created it to really get a feeling what's the most value. Is it the similarity? Is it maybe the individual patent? This is really what we have to find out now. And that's really, I'm so thankful that we're having that discussion with you, and also all the questions from the audience, because that's how we kind of learn by really seeing what people are asking for.
Yeah. And what I absolutely want to do is I want to integrate it anyhow in our education program. That's simply not because I think that IP experts can learn something about the details of a portfolio, but exactly what you say, from a design thinking perspective. And we have in the master program, also in the diploma, we have an aspect of design thinking. So agile development and design thinking, and I really would like to integrate it, because it is completely user-centric what you're doing there. And you have a very specific user here, and it's not the IP expert. It's somebody who don't know anything about it and want to get something useful, and for them you created something. Yeah, that's definitely something which I would like to do, and hopefully in the future we have some further ideas what can be done here. But I don't want to miss the opportunity just to ask you, what is Good IP is doing? I mean, it's nice that as a startup you created that tool, but anyhow you have to make money out of at the end you have to pay the the check. So what is Good IP doing?
Yeah, so what we're really thinking and doing is how we really come from information to recommendations. And this is really what we see as kind of the new battleground in the legal tech and IP world. Yeah, I mean, there is so much information out there. I think with Good IP IQ, we kind of reduce the complexity now. But the next big thing that we're doing at Good IP is creating really something that gives you a recommendation even. Where you as a startup founder basically answer a few questions, and then you get really guidance on what you should do IP-wise. So really getting from information to recommendation. I mean, that's what we're doing at Good IP, that we're using information. We like to say really big data and on basis of AI analysis, and really then give recommendations. And so there's really the two things. We are kind of solving the first riddle now with Good IP IQ, boiling down the information. But the second one, that's the even more interesting and the more challenging one. I mean, there you will see something from us early next year, where you can really then, what I said, I mean, answer a few questions and then get your tailor-made strategy.
Okay, wow. I mean, isn't that a little bit, I would say, dangerous to come up with AI-based recommendations? I mean, it's just, yeah. I'm not an expert in that field, and typically you would ask an expert, but you showed us that I mean, there are generic standard strategies which apply to certain situations, and I could imagine that can come from an AI, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, again, I mean, yes, at the end, speak to an expert. But what we want to do is lower the bar, that you can go to the expert and say, I think I need a patent. Or, I mean, what we really also see, I mean, that people understand about the science. I mean, really, what everybody learns in those MBA programs is that there is a patent. Yeah, they don't understand that it's more a sword instead of a shield. Yeah, that you can't hide behind the patent. Yeah, that you can just use it to attack somebody. Maybe that's what they got, but even that's difficult to understand. But I mean, like something like the science, I mean, most business people don't even know that it exists, and most people don't know how powerful it is. I mean, again,
Yeah.
it's just like that it would show you the AI that you should start thinking about designs, because others in your industry are thinking about registered designs. And yeah, at the end, I mean, it's more like a battle plan for you, a strategy, what you should do, but then turn to the expert. Totally agree.
Yeah, but obviously, when you understand who is patenting also in your field, and when you understand which companies are behind that, and I mean that's a starting point for a meaningful strategy, of course. And to Piotr, I just can say, Bastian Schulli is a lawyer by training, so I guess he knows the problem of being liable for wrong recommendations. Okay, yeah. So a lot is going on the chat. That's good. I think yeah, that's a very, so we will observe you what Good IP is doing, and it is a fascinating approach, and so far it is a huge success. Thank you very much that you were with us today. Again, thank you very much to Felipe Aguilera Borison and to Joe Doyle for leading our chat discussion. Bastian, I wish you all the best with Good IP, and of course with your projects. This is a fascinating approach, and yeah, all the best for that. And we will see us next time, I guess, at HTBC of the EPO. And yeah, to all the others, I wish you a nice evening, and bye-bye from our side.